Tips for using a pendulum. So, if you are interested in using a pendulum, or maybe you've used one before, here are a few tips to make that experience go more smoothly. First, let me just mention that you can make your own if you don't already have one. So, this one is basically some very thin cotton yarn and a pendant. I have other fancier pendulums somewhere, but I tend to misplace them sometimes. And so I just made a quick one. But you can use yarn or string and a button. You can use a ring and um, tie that on, or you can use a necklace. But if you're using a necklace, it should be something simple with just a chain and some type of pendant on it. You don't want one that has a lot of crystals or a lot of beads and things on it, because it needs to be able to swing in order to answer your questions. So the first tip is I like to cleanse the pendulum before I use it. So just to make sure that there's no residual energies from previous times that I've used it, or if it's been sitting out for a while, it's a good idea to cleanse your pendulum. So how do you do that? One way is with sound cleansing. So simple, clap my hands 3 times over the pendulum, or I could use a bell. If you like incense, you could light a stick of incense and sort of waft the smoke around the pendulum. You can also, if you don't have any of those things, you can also visualize cleansing it. So you could imagine white light surrounding your pendulum and hold that focus with white light running up and down the pendulum, clearing away any residual energies. And once you get a sensation that it's full or that it's clear, then you can stop. Usually, you would visualize maybe for 2 or 3 minutes, and then it would probably be cleansed. So I might even ask it, are you clear enough to do a reading and see what the pendulum says? Side note, you should know how your pendulum answers yes, no, and maybe / I don't know. So you need those 3 movements to understand what your pendulum is telling you. So you might say, show me a yes answer. For me, with my pendulum, it tends to swing left to right when it's giving me a yes answer. Show me a no answer. So it's forward and backward. It may be different for you. Some people find it going clockwise when it's a yes, counterclockwise when it's a no, and show me a maybe answer. So for mine, when it's maybe, it will give me a clockwise spin. So know what the answers are, right? How to read the answers, basically. The next really important tip, the most important tip that I could give you with using a pendulum, and this is why the first year or 2 that I tried to use a pendulum, I didn't get great results from it. And it is because I did not do this. You need to tell your pendulum where it is getting its answers from. The pendulum by itself cannot give you the secrets to the universe. It cannot tell you what is right for your body. It cannot give you answers just on its own. It's going to be random chance if you do not tell it where to get its answers from. So it needs to get its answers from your higher self, from your spirit guides, from your benevolent ancestors, or your deities. It needs to get this answer from somewhere, some sort of fountain of knowledge. It doesn't have that in and of itself. Okay, so that's super important. Tell it where you want the answers to come from. Otherwise, you're going to get very inconsistent results, and you will wonder, well, the pendulum told me that he was going to call me tomorrow, but it didn't happen. So the pendulum is just doesn't work. Probably you didn't ask for the correct source of information. Um, Not to say that the pendulum is going to be 100%. We are humans, and um, the energy is sort of working through you. Like the spirit is hopefully adjusting your finger or poking at the pendulum in order to make it move, but it's still like channeling through us. So it may not be 100%, but you might increase your results from being like 20 or 30% accurate to being 80% accurate by telling it where you want the information to come from by cleansing your pendulum regularly. So these are some really basic tips to help you get started and to use your pendulum more effectively. There are some advanced things like using pendulum charts, but we're not going to get into that today. So this is just a quick and basic list of tips to help you use your pendulum effectively. Side note, a lot of you follow me for paganism content, and I will say that if you've never used a pendulum before, I would not start with deities, particularly if you are a young person. I know a lot of teenagers are on this app, and some of you follow me. And that is because you need to trust your pendulum's, your connection with your pendulum and your pendulum's results before you put that pressure of trying to ask your deities for information and advice. Okay, plus, um, your deities are there to help you with larger life questions and not super basic, mundane questions. That's not what they're there for. So I would ask those really mundane questions like, oh, should I have the chicken sandwich or should I have the hamburger? I would ask my higher self or ask my spirit guides. I'm not going to ask my deity which one of those I should have, right? You want to treat the deity with some reverence and not ask them questions like that. Okay. So it's not to say that you cannot, but it's generally, I don't advise it. So start out with your higher self or your spirit guides or your ancestors, or you might have a particular ancestor in mind. You know, maybe your great grandfather or your great grandmother gave really great advice when they were living and you really respected their information. So maybe you might ask them, you know, great grandpa James, I really need your advice. I really need your help with this question. Should I do this? Or, you know, whatever your yes or no question is. So I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like or a share.